born, nature doesn't mistake and make you a giant oak tree. On the same reasoning, if you or I plant seeds of worry in our mind, the law will obey and will give us something to worry about. It will produce more and more circumstances to fulfill our focus, which happens to be worry at that moment. Also, if you think disease and lack, then you increase your receptivity and you experience more and more of what you're interested in, what you are focused upon. Whatever law you obey will in turn serve you. Therefore, don't you think the most important thing is to understand what am I to obey? So the question I left for you, beloveds, was, did you give time to look at how this law works in your life and take time to see what you should obey? Did anybody do that? Okay. So to continue.
Doing the class, so I don't know.
Okay.
Was that an actual question? No, sorry.
To continue with part 2 of the law of obedience, we may say this. You may laugh at the troubles of the little ones because you view them from their true value. To the child, the tiny tasks seem real and all-important, and not until he outgrows his childish ways can he look back with amusement and not feel regret. Therefore, not until we can raise superior in our mind above our problems and our troubles can we ever hope to cease to have any further troubles. So to share a little story, there was a mother who put her little boy to bed one night and later found out he was unable to sleep. He called down and asked that she turn the light on for him. The mother knew something was wrong, so she went up to his room and gained his confidence by talking with him. And she learned that during the day, other children had threatened to send a boogeyman after him because he would not give up his toys to them. The mother then explained to her son that there was no boogeyman. She said the purpose of it was to frighten him into submission so that he would give his toys over to the other children. So she said, please go back to sleep because there's no real boogeyman. The child had obeyed in that moment the illusion of things outside and was frightened, but the mother saw the inner truth. And knowing the truth, as the statement says, can set us free, she was able to see through the fear that was involved and help dispel it from the mind of her son, enabling him to go to bed and sleep peacefully. So the purpose of this lesson is how to learn how we might properly choose and serve the law from God for our own highest good. Because we either serve the principle, which is God and the laws, or the things that we have and the things that we think of and the things that we do. The things out there or the events that happen are the results of invisible causes, whereas principle is the true cause, and it is spirit, is the I am consciousness. Principle is that which we think in our mind from the I am conscious, and the things are the results of those thoughts that we have. A person's base illusions or their worship of things will have burdens to carry. A person's burdens are the things which they claim as their personal property. The things they feel are their very own, and therefore they must protect and hold on to them. Do you find yourself doing that with certain things in your life? There's a story of a man who worshipped illusions and things outside of himself. He strove in his life to accumulate riches. He worked so hard by gaining his wealth that he lost his health. Then he turned about and tried to gain his health by spending all of his wealth. In the end, he passed away, a disappointed and disillusioned man. That man, like so many others of us, started out in life with the wrong conception of the law of God. It is strange, beloveds, but none of us as human beings own an earthly thing. Everything has been loaned to him according to the understanding of the law that he serves. Man was born naked and shall die in that same nakedness. We leave the world much the way that we arrived. No hair, no teeth, no money, and we never own anything. Everything we own at the time of our death is belong to someone else. But what we are inside, which is our essence, is ours forever. Therefore, it pays to study the laws of God and the laws of the universe. Life is an ever upward progression. We are here to learn. As I've said before, it's like being in a school, and we continually are growing and learning. This life is seeking to express itself through every one of us, which is God expressing through us. And therefore, the entire universe is an evolving process of becoming, which is what we are, becoming more of one with God. What that means, beloved, is what looks like yesterday's problems, or how we might look at a child's problems or difficulties or the learnings that are going on. We can see from an adult perspective that eventually the child will get past that. But sometimes we get stuck in our own mind with that we need to let go of. We could look at having a business that goes from 0 to 1 million. To make that accomplished, we had to go through various problems to solve, difficulties to surmount. And then once we make that 1 million, the challenge is to go from 1 million to 10 million. What's the difference? It's a new set of learnings, new set of understandings, new set of applications, where you have to get bigger than your paradigm of what 1 million means, or even what 10 million means. You have to get past that, because we all have. As soon as I said that number, there was probably lack thoughts in your mind. Oh, I could never have that. But the energy is the same, whether it's 1 million or 10 million, because it comes from source. Having a challenge in our lives is not the problem, beloveds. It's what we think about that challenge. Our events are not the problem. The decisions we make about them are the problem. And we want to know in that time our mind does one of two things. When everything comes our way as a problem, our mind will either draw on evidence to prove how right it is, and we have to pay attention to how the ego is doing that, or it changes its decision. And that's what I tell my clients all the time. You want to feel your emotions and release them and change your thoughts. Don't hold on to the old things, because all it does is keep proving, I'm right, I can't have this, I'm poor, I'm this. We are faced with the challenge to see that as an opportunity to practice the law of obedience, to practice the law of the universe of our own understanding, where we expand to a greater experience of bigger and larger than the problem that we're facing. And without the law, it does exactly what the law of life does, which brings the result that we have in our mind. Empowering those things, infusing, energizing them with our own thoughts, our own beliefs. The problems never go away, do they? There's always going to be more that come our way. The problems that you have now, put this in your mind. A few years from now, you look at it and you go, God, those are pretty small compared to what I have now. And again, as it goes on, if you think you have big problems now, wait till next year, beloveds, because you're going to have bigger ones. Why? Because they're lessons for us to grow. It's just the same as if you go to different grades in school. You have more to learn about. It's the same thing with our lives. Our consciousness is growing, and we want to be able to be awake to that, don't we? And how can we change our thinking? How can we change our consciousness? If you don't understand it in your life, it can be very discouraging, because we feel stuck sometimes. How can I help move forward? I'm still in the same place I was before. But if you understand that those issues are there for you to grow in your own mind, it's good, because you're going to raise your consciousness. You're going to become one with God, with the I Am consciousness more and more. If you had the problems today, let's go the other side, okay? Because I said if you move forward, they'll look different. It's the same thing. If you had the problems that you had 5 years ago, you'd probably be bored, because they would look so simple to you. And you could say, oh, I could solve those, but I can't solve these. Disobedience to the law is refusal to do what we know is right in our own heart and mind. We all know the right way to live our lives, but sometimes we don't do it, because things seem to interfere or delay our immediate attainment of the object that we seek. We in our society want quick results, quick returns, forgetting that the law moves at its own rate. It sometimes moves slowly, and we need to work with it, because it works perfectly. The law works perfectly. And if we turn ourselves over to that, we have a much better life. But we say, oh, I want this instantaneous healing of my disease, but I'm loath to give up the habits that I may have that's creating it in the first place. I just keep saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, but not looking enough at what I'm doing to create it. What's being said here is accurate, beloved, because it is the law. it is God speaking to us. And when we work with it, we get to take quantum leaps in our life, which is an enormous jump ahead and takes very little effort if you follow the law. When we really get into harmony with the law, we can manifest magnificent results in our lives. How does that sound? We can do that. I'm not telling you there's nothing. You haven't sinned against God and somehow it's going to be held against you, or any of the other old laws or ideas that people put out there. All it is we get to have God's kingdom in us, but we have to open up and obey the law that's there for us. When we speak of a person of principle, we mean a person who is governed by the law of right thinking and right living. A person who is not easily swayed. A person who does not deviate from the path of what he or she seems to be right for the sake of some personal profit or popularity. A person, in short, who may one day be trusted to be absolutely true to their convictions, regardless of the temptations that come their way to change or modify them. No one would deny that such a person inspires the utmost confidence and may be a tower of strength and leadership to all the rest of us. He is one to whom others rely on for leadership. Whereas the other person, the one who's easily persuaded to yield to pressure for other motives, is not the type of individual upon which we can depend, nor ourselves. If this is true of a person in the outer realm in our life right here, it is much more true of the persons in the inner realm, of the mind and the connection of law and of God. That's where we want to be, because God is principle. Not that we're governed by it, but we need to learn to be one with it. The God-governed individual, which is what we're learning to be here, is never in doubt as to the results to be acclaimed by following principle. When you practice it, you find out. You create, you manifest in your life. And that's what our theme is for this year. Manifesting through new thought. To continue to open up to these laws. So, the principle is based upon law and obedience. Therefore, the law of obedience can only have one result. What do you think it is? Happiness, peace, prosperity, all good. That's a beautiful promise, and it makes the studying of this law worthwhile. Because we want that. What we want is the obedience to what is in harmony with what we want, with what God is giving us all the time. There's a quote that says, all that's required for us is to learn obedience to the law of truth. And we could look at harmony to be the same as obedience. We are either in harmony with our lives or we're out of harmony with our lives. We're in harmony with the law of God or out of harmony with the law of God. And if we think of obedience as bringing all of our faculties and all of our feelings into harmony with our desired good, that's true. And then what we want, what we really believe in, is good for us, and we find ourselves working with the laws and working with our life and being in harmony with all that is. And any place that we're out of harmony, when things aren't working right, we got to stop and say, what am I thinking? What is there that I need to release that I don't want so I can bring myself back into harmony in my life with God? That is being obedient to the law. And that we can have this experience of the presence of life and spirit right now, beloveds. Not after we die and told we're going to go to heaven. No, right now. Not tomorrow. Right now. In this moment. Make a choice. Right now. Bring yourselves into harmony. Practice the law of obedience so that you can get the good that you want, not the problems that you tend to attract. Michael Beckwith, who is a teacher of Science of Mind, says, take your mind of the problem and put it on God. Stop telling God about your big problem and tell your problems about your big God. Did you get that? A whole way change of thinking. I turn it over to God. Let go and let God. We talk about that a lot in our church too. So that statement is a practice of obedience, and that's what we're here for, beloved. So take it in. There's 2 parts that I've shared with you about the law of obedience. Start practicing it. Start living your life according to the law in harmony. And guess what will come your way? Great things. Namaste.